What's up, everybody? Welcome to Mon Goals. I am Mike. With me is Laura, Ellen, and Eli. The Hounds had potentially the best night since Columbus, and we are going to break it all down. Let's go! I really need to figure out a way to make that not feel weird. Yeah, thanks, guys. Before we dive into catching up, okay, all right. Before we dive into catching up, Laura, Ellen, do you want to do the honors since Josh isn't here?
Oh, I will try, Josh. I'm gonna try not to let you down.
That was pretty good.
Did you get anything?
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
It's the very fancy LaCroix, so you know.
Good. Let's go around the horn, Laura, Ellen. What's new?
What is new? There has been a 30-degree temperature swing here in our town, and my body does not know how to respond to that. We have had a very busy couple of weeks with a new nephew being born and watching another nephew. And, there's just been a lot happening, but it's all good. It's all good stuff. We are thankful that the Hounds are seeming to turn it around a little bit, but we will dig into that a little bit more later. But yeah, we're good.
Good. Glad to hear it from the Brighton fan to the Crystal Palace fan. Eli, how's it going?
Yes, going well. Enjoying this weather. Still kind of riding a high from Saturday. That was great. Other than that, I don't know. I've been doing yoga on an app.
Oh, nice.
Just dipping my toe into the water. The first time I've ever really done that. So got like a few weeks strong of that. That's what's been going on.
That's great. Every so often I'll go back and like find a new yoga app and I'll do it for a few weeks. And then for whatever reason, I put it aside and then I'll go, a few months later, find another one. But yeah, no, yoga's fantastic. Good for you. You alluded to sort of, the craziness of Saturday. I think today being Monday, I still woke up on a bit of a high just from everything that happened. Not the least of which we got a surprise announcement from Jeff Garner before game time. Essentially, the team started posting, it felt like day of, just like get your seats early because there's going to be an announcement. And so, I'm seeing this on social media. I'm like, what's the announcement? What could this actually be? And sure enough, Jeff Garner steps up and announces something we've been discussing for seemingly years. The Hounds are getting a USL women's team, which is like amazing and exciting and all of the things. So I want to get your guys' reactions to it. But before that, I spent some time talking to Jeff earlier today. So I want to play that interview so you guys can get all the details. And there's a lot of stuff that he didn't reveal on the day that he shared with me today. So let's play that and then we'll get your guys' thoughts. Jeff, welcome back. Love having you here. I have to ask right off the bat, are you still buzzing from Saturday the way I think a lot of fans are?
Yeah, thank you, by the way. It's nice to be back. I thought maybe I did something wrong. It's been since you've had me on. But no, I've had a fairly long career, longer than I'd like to admit, and have had some really incredible experiences over that career in all kinds of different venues and different sports. And this weekend was one of the most exciting. It was one of the most anticipated. The crowd was fantastic. The team played really well. Announcing the USLW team was an amazing experience, and to do it with such a great group of our academy girls there to be a part of it. And as we explained it to them before we made the announcement, just to see their excitement, because I think they could project themselves forward a few years and say that, hey, that's an opportunity that I may have that I didn't have 5 minutes ago. And that was really exciting too. So yeah, it was fantastic Saturday night. Sunday was extremely busy, a ton of outreach, very positive. So many people that want to be involved or supportive of it. And that's continued today too. So it's been a really exciting couple of days.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I just rewatched the announcement that you made on the field, and it was funny. There was a girl who was over your shoulder. I don't know if you've seen the video, but the expression on her face when you announced that there was going to be this team, she just lights up, and it's just pure excitement, which was just amazing. I mean, that speaks to everything that you just said about sort of building this program and making it about them. So kudos to you guys. This is massive news. Like, I think when we first talked to you, it might have been the first time that you came in. I think we actually asked you, like, what are your thoughts on a women's team? And I think you were like, guys, I literally got here like yesterday. Like, give me a second. But like, basically the team had started trickling out news that, make sure you're in the seats right before the games. I was not expecting this at all. So I guess my question is, why now? Like, why are we making this announcement right now?
Sure. Well, I wish I could say it was all strategic and fantastic planning on our part. I think some of it was the USLW season is about to start in May for 2024. We wanted to be out ahead of the start of that season. We want to make sure that not only our academy, but our area, our region, know about this for 2025. We have girls that have played locally that are in college, all over the country, that this would be an opportunity for them to play at home. So we want to make sure they were aware for next year. We have our academy tryouts are underway and will be going through May and early June. And so there's an opportunity for girls to know about this as they make those decisions going forward. And I think it's an exciting time with the expansion of the stadium and that project in progress. We will be, I think, moving some dirt around this summer for AHN Montour and the training facility and adding fields there. And so it seemed to fit with a lot of that information that's been coming out in that progress. And I don't think this is where we end either. I think this is a step, but I don't think this is the end of development of women's soccer for us or the region. And so that's really exciting too.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things to sort of highlight is the fact that the USLW is a developmental league. It's not sort of the pro league. So I think it's somewhat implied that this is a stepping stone, just as you said. I'm glad that you acknowledged that. One of the biggest questions, and you may not be able to answer this, you mentioned during the announcement that sort of name and branding will be shared at a later date. Just for everybody who's listening, I know that there are a lot of teams that will sort of share the name with their club. So you have like Detroit City, Indy 11, Birmingham, where the men's and women's team have the same name. There are other ones that have their own identity. Sorry, like Racing Louisville, Oakland Soul.
Yep.
Can you tell us if you're leaning one way or another?
This is where I get in trouble. I think for exactly those reasons, there's lots of examples of how this could be done and how it could be branded. I think if you're in Pittsburgh, you're black and gold. So we know those will be the colors. We want it to be certainly related to the Riverhounds. But I think there's a great opportunity to try to create its own identity for that club. And I think we want to explore taking advantage of that as well. What that ends up being, I'm not sure. I think we are going to solicit advice and ideas from a number of different people. Some of the girls in our academy, some of the leadership in the community, and take some cues from around the country on what we could come up with that would be empowering for women, that is chosen by women, and is something that we can all be very proud of as we get underway next May.
So it's not a definitive one way or another. I will say, if you go with sort of a new brand or a new identity, there's a lot of examples within USLW where they have crushed it. Minnesota Aurora, their design is fantastic. Yep. Richmond Ivy is fantastic. I know you guys did a great job with the rebrand just a few years ago. So full faith in you guys, but this does seem like an amazing opportunity to do something new.
Yeah, no, I agree. It opens the doors of creativity. And again, I think establishing a unique identity, although sure it will be related and have a similar feel to the Riverhounds, and the colors will be the same. I would really like to see us move into a direction that does create its own identity, and certainly deservingly so. So I think you'll see a variation at the very least, and a complete sort of new brand on the other side.
The league itself is massive. There's currently 80 teams that are involved, which logistically that means that you have multiple conferences, multiple divisions within each conference. Has there been any sense of where this team might land? Because, if it's one division in one conference, it could be we're playing the likes of Lancaster and Richmond. If it's another one, it's like Detroit and Cleveland. Has that decision been made yet?
It hasn't. I think that's an ongoing conversation. Part of the timing of this was it has been a little bit difficult to nail down which division we would play in, but we felt strongly that we wanted to get the information out. And so that's why we moved forward with the announcement. So unfortunately, we don't know what division we're going to play in yet. There's a couple different possibilities, but you can think of this as a regional league, regional divisions. So we will not likely be flying across the country, nor will teams be flying to us. It'll be more regionally based in Western Pennsylvania, Ohio, Southwest New York, West Virginia, areas like that. There's some possibility of looking eastward into Pennsylvania. And so all to be determined, but it will be a geographically, it'll be a fairly close regional division that we'll play in.
So lots of good road trips for fans, which sounds like a positive. Yeah.
All drivable for sure. Yep.
Have you guys talked at all about sort of the management structure of the team and how that will sort of work with the men's side and the academy and all of that at all?
Yeah, to some degree. So Dan Visser, who was recently appointed in December, I think, as our sporting director, will oversee the soccer side of the club. We are still working through the details of a coach and a manager and what that structure will look like in framework. The good thing is we have infrastructure already in place. And so it's very possible that we may be able to have one of our current coaches take over our USLW franchise. On the business side, I think there will be likely some additions to support. We're going to operate this as a fully professional team. So every bit of what you would get, or the atmosphere you'd get at a Riverhounds game, you're going to get at a USLW Pittsburgh game. And so that will take additional resources and some additional staff. But also we'll share some responsibilities. So our current Riverhound staff will be able to add on. Think about things like ticket sales, for instance. The same person that you get your season tickets from, you can get your USLW season tickets from. We'll do packages. And so I think we're going to take advantage of the infrastructure that we have in place. But of course, there's going to be some supplement on both the soccer side and on the business side.
One of the questions that when we were sort of discussing, talking to you, that came up was whether or not we would consider packages between the men's side and the women's side. And so that's exciting that sounds like it's going to be a thing. Really, my last question for you, you mentioned kickoff in May 2025. What's next for your team? Like, where you got, 12 months essentially to get this thing going. So where are you guys looking from here?
Yeah. Well, we are currently actually talking to some local leaders in the space that I think that are going to help us establish some policy and procedure that are going to help us with branding, that are going to help us with sort of a different outside perspective. We want to make sure we do it right. And then I think once we sort of solidify that direction, obviously name and brand are going to be next up. Those are going to have to happen very quickly. You can think about the lead time on uniforms, merchandise, things like that all have to happen right around the corner. In fact, some of that work has already started. And so I think that's the immediate. And then obviously starting to put the team together and starting to figure out who will be the first few players named to the roster, which will happen in the next few months as well. And those conversations have already started as well. So I think that's probably what's on the slate. I think information will come out as we go forward, and there'll be a ton of information. So I think it'll be a fairly regular stream, particularly as we get into the end of the summer and early fall. I think then we'll really be moving forward with a lot of detail at that point.
Super exciting. Like I said, I know there's a lot of fans that have been hoping for something like this for years. So we're all sort of on the edge of our seats, sort of waiting for that next bit of news. But really appreciate that, the organization is taking that next step, that, you guys made the announcement, and now everyone can sort of look forward to May 2025. This is great.
Yeah. Now we just have to get it right. That's the easy part.
No pressure.
But like I said, I think this is a start, right? Now we've established our and it's funny to say that because we've established our Riverhounds Development Academy and have a history there and have a lot of success there. We'll establish this USLW team, but there are more steps to take, and I think we're committed to continue to look at those steps, and this will be a precursor, and we'll see how things go. I think particularly from our fan base, but also from our corporate community and how they support it. And that'll really lay the groundwork to be able to take that next step into a higher league and bring professional women's soccer to Pittsburgh as well. So we certainly want to see that happen in the future.
Can't wait to be talking about both men's and women's teams on this show. Jeff, thank you so much for taking the time. I know, like you said, you're busy. Obviously, best of luck, and we'll talk to you sooner than last time. I want to get some details on this whole stadium development thing.
You're giving me a complex. You're conscious. So no, thank you very much for having me on. It's exciting to share this, and again, more information to come as we move forward. But it's going to be exciting every time we get a new update and new information. It'll be something that we'll certainly enjoy getting out to our fan base. So thanks again for having me.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jeff.
Great.
Well, what do we think, Laura Ellen? Immediate impressions.
That was great. That is really exciting. And I think Mike, thank you for finding the time to talk with him today, because, it is such a short turnaround. And this has been something we've been talking about for a long time. We've mentioned it on the show. And now that it's announced, it gives the community, certainly the pressures on the organization to get themselves together to give us the high quality product that I think in the past several years we've come to expect from the Riverhounds organization. And so we'll want to see that. And it also gives us as fans a year to get excited, to spread the word, to just really build on all of the excitement. So I'm excited. This is great.
Eli, what do you think?
I basically echoing Laura Ellen's statements. I'm just really excited it has happened. It had been alluded to a little bit this year. So to confirm that and just have some plan in place is pretty cool. Can kind of feel like every single game I would, talk to somebody about, I don't know why they don't have anything yet. We would be a great place for that. And just even seeing kind of the talented female players come through the city, through Pitt, through the region. I think that makes it kind of a no-brainer. I think it's ready to get this going.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciated there was a lot of conversation online after the announcement of like, professional women's soccer finally coming to Pittsburgh. And a number of people pointed out that, this is developmental, which is why there's so many teams and it's so regional. And we do have other developmental teams already. The Steel City FC is one in particular that's doing great things. There are other ones as well. So this is sort of a big step for the organization, but Jeff did really kind of emphasize both on and off air that in his mind, this is a stepping stone. Like the USL also has the Super League, which is a Division I women's league that this would be I don't want to say a seamless transition to, but when we are ready, it would be great to sort of, have a team there as well. And it seems like that's the direction that he's pointed in, which is great. Lots of comments about, the coach itself. Blue Shade 12 said Coach Kenny to the USLW. Bill G said, would you prefer a female coach? I don't think I've made any big secret of the fact that I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we saw Rob Vincent as a coach, considering all the great work that he did with some of the female academy teams. Come on up, get a year under Bob, and then make the transition to be a first team coach with the USLW. But we'll see. I asked him about that this offseason, and he was kind of cagey about it, which is fine. We'll get it back on. We'll ask him about it soon. But Eli, what are your thoughts on a coach? Do you have a front runner in mind, or are you just sort of waiting to see how things shake out?
I had not thought about it until now, so I think Rob and Kenny are as good of suggestions as I can think of. I don't really know where else you would look. Who as far as even if you're looking for a female coach, or I don't know.
I think what's interesting is Jeff did make a point of saying, like, sort of looking within, and maybe we do find somebody from outside, maybe we do try to promote somebody from inside. Who knows? Laura Ellen, do you have any thoughts one way or another?
I don't know. There must be someone in Rochester who is just, who has a lot of experience, who could just come, because that's we already have the association with the Strong Museum. Why not just bring it? No, I mean, I think I don't have a strong preference, or someone asked, like, do you want a female coach? I don't know. I think what I do want, and I played soccer for a long time. I did not play in college or professionally in any stretch, but having a coach who has coached women before, I think, makes a difference. Because let me tell you, if Bob Lilly was my coach, right, like, there would be like fist fights, like, because like, that's not how you like communicate. I don't know, right? And anyway.
Tell us how you really feel, Laura Ellen. No,
anyway, but all that to say, I think having someone who does have a track record coaching women, and can do that successfully, and whether or not they have that play style matches Bob's play style, that does not seem important to me. I guess I don't know enough about kind of like the play style. I guess I'm thinking about Brighton, and their play style on the women's side does not match their play style on the men's side, because it's two completely different games, even though they're both in the top divisions in England, right? So I don't know. To me, it does not need to be like a Bob Prodigy who's coaching the women's team. I think it needs to be someone who has demonstrated success in the development of women's soccer in the US, who understands what the dynamics are about playing in college, and kind of like, what does that mean? Because that is different from a lot of other places, college athletics versus going straight from high school. So all that to say, my preference would be someone with that demonstrated track record and that experience. And if that's from within the organization, that makes sense to me, because the women's academy teams and the girls' academy teams have done better than the boys' academy teams historically. So those are my, of course, I don't really have an opinion about any of these things, Michael. That's why you have me on this podcast.
Listen, I think it makes Dan Visser's job very interesting. I had a conversation with him this offseason where we were talking about, is there a style of play that you try to reflect from the men's first team down through the academy, in the with the idea in mind that you could potentially have academy graduates move up to the pro team? And at the time he said, it's not really, but part of his job is finding that linkage between the academy and the pro teams. And now if you have both a men's pro team and a women's pro team, not only are you trying to help identify talent, but if there is that linkage of style of play so that you could get more people through, then it'll just be interesting. So it'll be worthwhile to try to talk to him for sure and get his thoughts. The one other big thing from it was that, it sounds like, he didn't say it definitively, and he said it could get him in trouble, but it sounds like they're thinking about a brand other than the Riverhounds. Black and gold, somewhat related. So I know that that was one of the biggest questions out there once it was announced. Will this just be, you know, part of it, like a Riverhounds club, or will it be its own name? It sounds like they're leaning towards own name, own branding. So take with that what you will, but start the speculation in terms of what names could be out there and what they could be. Keep them all, you know, tasteful, please. But exciting stuff, and obviously not the last we've heard about this. So just stay tuned. But really, really exciting news for sure. Guys,
yeah, I was just gonna say I'm excited as long as there's no like lady. You know, someone mentioned this in our like internal group chat, but as long as there's no lady, I think hopefully as a society we've moved past that. But as long as like that's not the case, black and gold makes sense. But you know, if I see a lady or any kind of like, you know, the little hounds or like, right, like,
yeah,
we will all be losing our ever loving minds for obvious and, you know, legitimate reasons.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on this, guys, before we move on to talk about the rest of the craziness? Go ahead, Eli.
I definitely lean toward a preference of a separate name, you know, black and gold, kind of similar branding, but I think I would like a different name. My bank account may not, given just like more jerseys and merch to buy. I kind of like seeing like the different names, giving them, you know, a bit of their own identity, because we all know they're intertwined if they're playing out of the same stadium and things like that. I think I lean towards new name.
Yeah. No, makes sense. Guys, let's talk about the big game. So I mentioned to Jeff, it just, if you tried to script an evening, short of maybe Kenny getting his own goal, I don't think you could have scripted this really any better. So at the beginning of the game, Jeff announces that we have the USL women's team coming. We sold out Highmark Stadium to the tune of 6,000 plus, which the Highmark Stadium has a capacity of a little over 5,000, which Jeff told me off air, like, but good. Like we're one of my concerns, especially early on, was, did the slow start have the potential to impact ticket sales at the gate? And that seems to not be the case. People showed up in droves for this game. Then you have us playing the team that knocked us out of the playoffs last year, Detroit, who have literally won 5 for 5. They have been perfect so far this season. And then we beat them 2-0. You have Kenny breaking the record for the most minutes played by USL championship player ever. So it was just like win on top of win on top of win on top of win. It was just great. Eli, you were there. It looked amazing on the screen, but just like talk through just what it was like to be in the stands a little bit.
It was really awesome. It was, I mean, you just always just the vibes of that first really nice weather weekend. That alone made for an excellent day. The dollar beers seemed to bring in a younger crowd. It seemed like a lot of college age fans, people brought in for the dollar beers. There was, I think they cut off, because I was just tailgating a lot. A line going out of the tailgate zone, and then I think they had to cut that off, and then I think once that happened, people were lined up for opening of the stadium for dollar beers inside. So, you know, that was the excitement. That was kind of the scene setting. And then, yeah, it was really packed. It was, you'll see if you probably saw on the broadcast, down in the supporters section, we got kind of really crunched in there, did our best with that. I think I don't know how many what they definitely stretched to fit as many people as they could in the building, and it made for some challenges navigating the bleachers. It was kind of like right before halftime, it was like not even really a stairway. It was just this blob of people. So I sure hope the fire marshal is not. Does the fire marshal listen to this podcast? I don't know, but
Too late.
That was interesting. I'd never even seen that at a playoff game or anything. So, but it was really awesome. It was great weather. It was, and we'll get into the game itself soon here. But and loud, goals in the first half to get the fans engaged. Goals in front of the supporters' end, which I don't know. It seems to sometimes feels like they only were on the other end, or for a while. But really the perfect storm of a lot of things, and it was really, really cool. Probably one of the better regular season games in a long time.
Yeah, for sure. Laura Ellen, give me a takeaway from this one. How did you leave this? Well, you weren't at the game, but when you watched this game, how did you leave feeling after seeing it?
So for sure, I watched the entire game. I was at Knoebels, and it was cold and rainy. And then I got home and I said, the Riverhounds are on. We must watch the Riverhounds. And first, I don't know, for whatever reason, I wasn't getting. Oh, the ESPN app was having issues. Mike, did you have issues with ESPN?
There were
ESPN
a few moments
this weekend.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we were trying to watch it on the way home, and then safely in the car, and it wasn't working. So anyway, we weren't getting notifications. So I didn't know what the score was, and I turned it on. I think probably in the 65th or 70th minute. Maybe it was a little earlier than that. And I was blown away by how full the stands were, because I remember the last home game that I watched, it really felt like no one was there. It felt like the supporters section was empty, and I was like, oh dear, this is not a good look. It didn't and I think it was a little cooler, and it was rainy the last home game. And I think same thing, that I had the same thought you did, Mike, that man, it's been a rough start to the season. Are people going to show? And so I was really pleasant. And Saturday was miserable here in central Pennsylvania. And so I was shocked to see people in short sleeves and the stadium packed. So all that to say, the energy, I could really feel the energy from home. And I even texted Steve. I was like, how does it feel there? Because I feel great. And Steve said that he was at home also. So he was like, it feels great on the TV. So all that to say, it was really great. I know that you've talked on the podcast about the video screens before, and I know that other clubs have them, and we were blinded by them in where did we go? Oh, Rhode Island. It was terrifying. Felt like I was in a horror movie. But they look just really nice on the screen, like on the television screen. They give this professionalism, which feels weird to say because it looked professional before. And I feel like our camera angles are good at Highmark. So all that to say, it felt really great. It also feels really wonderful to win and to beat Detroit, and to just, make them feel and just make them realize that they are not the top of the league and they are not the greatest club. And I was watching the highlights to, remind myself of the match, and the announcers at the beginning of the game said, oh, this historic rivalry of the USL. And I'm like, you mean all 3 seasons that Detroit has been here? Is that what you mean? Like,
Listen,
this
they
is
gotta take whatever they
historic
can
rivalry.
get. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Anyway, and then we can talk about all the yellow cards
Yeah.
that seem to just be flying like candy. But
yeah, I mean, I think one of the big things was I mentioned that Detroit was coming into this game having won their last 5, and they'd been averaging 2 goals a game over the course of that span. So, you know, I think they were allowing 1 goal a game and scoring 2. I think we held them to 0.2 expected goals over the course of the game with only 1 shot on target, which is insane. Basically, they previously had they were scoring, I think, at 20%. So they were scoring at like 1 out of every 5 shots they took, and to basically hold them to 1 shot and 0.2 expected goals was great. Completely smothered them. Like it was just a dominant performance. We had some comments after the fact where I was just like, how's everybody feeling? And people were like, it was kind of boring. I was like, what are you watching? Like, seriously? Like, that was insane and just totally smothered them. Yeah, I mean, just really, really good stuff. We could talk a little bit about, I want to keep talking about the game, but one thing that we've got to touch on is the fact, if you look at the first 3 games that we played this season, we've let up 6 goals. Now in our last 4 games, we've only given up 1. So we basically went from 2 goals against to a quarter goal against per game. So that's a huge factor. It feels like those first few games, Laura Ellen, you were mentioning, there's a lot of tinkering, a lot of kind of figuring stuff out. And I know it's been 2 games, right? We got 2 wins in a row. That's great. But, we have been playing some solid defense and we've just been looking good. So, yeah. Eli, go ahead, Laura Ellen.
Oh, yeah. I just had a thought, and kind of zooming out a little bit. In previous seasons, we've had rougher starts to the season. Now, it has never been this bad. Like, it has, it hasn't been the 3 losses in a row, at least in recent history. If we go way, way back, I think some of us were around. Yeah. Josh in particular, he's not here to relive those experiences for us, but I do think it's interesting to me, because even as you were just talking, Mike, I think about, okay, there has been in other seasons so much tinkering around, and I can't remember if we've had like visa issues like we did this year, or there's been early injuries unexpectedly, or what's his face, was that Dane Kelly did not show up in any kind of way, that we thought he would. And I think he got injured or had something. But all that to say, I as I think back on it a bit more, it seems like even though we were having all of that tinkering, we weren't punished for it in the same way that we were punished for the tinkering this season. And so I wonder, like, when we get toward 3/4 of the way or closer to the end of the season, is that going to come back to bite us? Because in previous seasons we've been able to slide by with maybe several draws, or maybe we squeak out a win in those first 3 to 5 games of the season. But this year we were really, really punished for that. And so again, this is really zooming out and not focusing specifically on this game, but it is something I think about, and it will be one of those kind of time will tell things to think, hey, guess what? You can't be tinkering around when this is like the beginning, the first 5 games of your season.
Yeah. Eli, give me something that you saw on the field, something that happened that you'd like to discuss.
On the field, I thought my number one thing here, Etu, is he our best player? Is he one of them? He's been incredible. Certainly some, the penalty and things to break down, but just in general, his mentality of just kind of creating things off the dribble really, really is adding something. It seems to just be gaining confidence, and especially against teams like Detroit and last year, we would just sort of, you'd get the ball a few yards, basically back to their sort of defensive setup in the box, and you just kind of pass it off to the corner more and more until you just kind of get a worse angle and a worse shot, and maybe, sometimes try and get a corner or, something out of that. But Junior's just running toward the net, and that is pretty cool to see. We can, kind of debate the actual the results of that, or what should or shouldn't have been called, but just even in general, I am just loving watching him play. And I was probably his biggest critic early last year. I think he was just sort of, I can't even remember exactly because he looks pretty good, but some sort of awkward things on the ball, or awkward in integrating with the team and the offense, because, Lily stuck with him last year, and he certainly showed something in the second half of last year too. But, now suddenly he's my favorite player, and it's just, it's really, exciting, really refreshing to see.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about him last week too, where it was just like, is he just quietly being really good? I think in this game he was loudly being really good. He would pick up the ball in the corner of the box and just drive, and like he was dribbling through 3, 4, 5 guys. Drew the pen, which there was a lot of discussion of, was it a pen? Wasn't it a pen? The announcers were squarely on the side of, it wasn't a pen, it was too harsh. I'm still on the side of, I think it was a pen. If you go back and watch it, the case is that when I forget, was it Akinyode, somebody went down to try to take him out, and as soon as he went down, the ball changed directions. But if you look on one of the other angles, the ball changed directions because Etu flicked the ball to the left with the outside of his left foot. And so that's why it changed directions. The announcers also came back and said, this is all at speed of play. It's really difficult, like sort of justifying that while they thought it wasn't a pen, they were giving the ref credit. But he did that 2 or 3 times this game. He tried to do it later too and got taken down in the box, and the ref gave him a yellow for simulation, which I did not understand. But yeah, man, I mean, we've talked about in the past, where the goal is going to come from, where's the offense going to come from. And I think if you have players that are willing to drive into the box and create chaos like that, which is what he's doing, he's pulling players out of position because they have to step in to cover him, that's just going to create all sorts of magic for us. So yeah, 100% Etu. Really, really good stuff from there. Laura Ellen, I alluded to the fact that I thought the ref wasn't great. Lots of yellows just for no reason. Gave a red at the end, which I think was for a second yellow, but the fact that he went straight red made it seem like it was a straight red. What were your thoughts on the ref in this one?
I think, I mean, the one at the very end of the game, it was a second yellow, but I feel like the ref confused himself. Like, I think the ref was confused because the player had just gotten the first yellow. And so, like, the problem is that last foul is a yellow. Like, any day, all day is a yellow, but the ref had just given the first yellow. Anyway, it was like, yes, Liz just said extreme micromanager. Yes, that's like very much what it felt like to me. And I think, was it like the first game of the season? Maybe I was on the show right after that, or maybe Mike, you had made comments at some point. Someone was saying like, "Hey, I felt like the refs were doing like pretty well so far," and it, in some ways, it just feels like the pendulum, right? It's like either the refs are not calling a single thing, and the game gets way out of hand, and players are actively attempting to seriously injure each other, or it's the micromanager of, well, everyone's getting a yellow, there's like delay of games, and I think, was it the announcers who were saying that the last game that this ref officiated, he gave a yellow to the goalkeeper for like wasting time. Anyway, there's like, which wasting time is probably my number one pet peeve of men's professional soccer, and some women's too, but mostly men's. So anyway, it just, but at the end of the day, I'm like, well, it is what it is. And I'm sure they're not getting paid very well. And they get lots of abuse in some kind of way. And also, it's just like, just do your job. But like VAR isn't the answer. I don't know, right? Like, I guess we need something to gripe about. And I suppose the refs are the people who are going to get it.
Yeah. It's a thankless job for sure. You could do it perfectly and nobody's really going to notice, but that's kind of the point. Like, you're supposed to not necessarily be noticed. So, yeah, we'll see. Obviously, we got to give Kenny the kudos for, all-time minutes leader. And so the thought is that it's just going to keep going up from there. I think they also made an announcement that this is now Griffin's 1000th minute playing in the USL. So like there was that landmark as well. Yeah, I mean, overall, just really, really good stuff. Anything else from this game that you guys want to talk about?
I really liked, speaking of Kenny, I mean, that kind of front three we had, it was without Kizza, kind of had those, top two midfielders play up a bit. I thought Forbes especially, but Forbes and Mertz really did great in that role. They did great. Maybe it's because they're also defensive players, but they did great as part of that, the head of the press, and that worked out really nicely. I think just overall, like you talk about the defensive approach, it seems it's very Bob Lilly like to mess with us. I think he just likes to make me feel just keep me on edge, Goes to that back four last week, and it's like, oh, back four, we finally found something. This is awesome. And then the lineup comes out, and it's like, there are three defenders. What are we doing? And then, that worked, and it made sense that he wanted to crowd the midfield. So, like a lot of kind of Bob Lilly classics were kind of, or at least I was kind of scratching my head, and then, a couple hours later, just talking about how smart he was to do that. So, yeah, feel really, just really good about everything. Hogan too.
Tactically,
I guess, was the other bright spot for me.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, Hogan's goal, I think his first one, is a hound. It felt like it came from just a smothering. Like it started from a corner that then got crossed back over, that then got crossed back again, and then Mertz was able to put it on Hogan. It just felt like tactically Lilly just got it right. Like Detroit in the past had been successful from trying to work the ball through the middle. So we seem to employ a bit of a high press with a high back line to just condense the middle. So they just couldn't do that. And they didn't know what to do. Their best player, Rodriguez, was dropping back into their final third just to try to get the ball. And the announcers kept making a point of like, that's you completely neutralized them, which was exactly what needed to happen. So that was clearly a tactical decision and something that Lilly got right. So yeah, I think just, put a pin in this so that next season early, when we're like, does Lilly still have it? Like what's going on here? It's like, he still has it for sure. Yeah. There were a number of comments online about this is just Bob's way of spotting the league 3 games just to make it a bit more interesting for us. So, I think my outstanding question from this is, I know it's only been 2 games that we've won back to back. We started off things really rocky, but I mentioned that we've now only let up 1 goal in 4 games. Are we good now. Like I think after the first 3 games, it was like, no, like we're struggling here. Like what's going on? But I think my mindset has shifted. Whereas before, you'd go into games like worrying that we were going to lose. And I think I'm back to the point now after seeing what I saw this weekend that I'm going into it thinking that we're going to win, like somewhat convinced we're going to win. Laura Ellen, where do you stand on that?
I think this is the Aston Villa fan talking and
Okay.
not the Riverhounds fan talking. Here's my point. So I'll just brief side note. We have a stateside Seagulls. So these are US based supporters of Brighton and Hove Albion. And we celebrated in the chat, in our WhatsApp chat, when Brighton scored or got enough points to mathematically stay up, right? And then if you follow the EPL at all, Brighton has lost and probably will lose the rest of their games. We're having a lot of injuries and we're all fine, right? Because we're like, mathematically, we are safe. We are not being relegated. And that is similar. Like that is kind of the same historic feelings that I have about the Riverhounds, right? We for many, many seasons, we struggled a lot and any win was celebrated. And then even if we were up by 2 goals, right, we would be sitting in the stands and, having heart palpitations for the last, 20 minutes of the game, just praying that we would not end up losing the game. And so for me, I give that context just to say, I still worry. Last season, when we were doing great, I was worrying that we were still going to give up our beautiful lead or whatever it is. And so I will believe it when I see it. When the final whistle blows at 90, 120 minutes or whenever they decide to end these ridiculous games with all their extra minutes of stoppage time, then I will believe that we have gotten our 3 points and that we are continuing to climb the table. But, kind of all joking aside, I think there are signs, but it's that consistency, right? It's the consistency of having players who play consistently, who are showing up, who are having that creativity, who are doing that, those runs of just like that added 10% that you just need to give in the 70th minute, in the 80th minute, in the 30th minute, right? So I don't know. We'll see. I'm feeling a little better than I was at game 4 or game 5. But also I'm like, yeah, cool. We've won 2 games. That's still 2 wins on the season so far, right? It's a little hard. So
yeah.
I'm not as optimistic as you are, Mike.
That's fair. Eli, is your default setting sort of going into the next game nervousness or confidence?
Right now, it's confidence. I mean, this specific situation against Miami, it's relatively confident. It's pretty confident. I'm very encouraged by what we see because it just seems like they're figuring out the problems that they were facing, and this tends to be a familiar pattern. This is actually, I feel like, a little early for that. I feel like usually every May we kind of hit a spot where it's like we're just incredible and we're kind of champions of May, and then that doesn't actually do much. But I feel confident because it seems things are coming together. I think a lot of it might also be, we would have to know kind of how good is Phoenix? They're defending champions. How good are they right now? How good is Detroit legit? I thought they've played a softer schedule, but also looked really good, and also really made some smart kind of moves. Obviously brought in a new coach that could kind of not he didn't scrap their defensive philosophy, but just added a little bit of attacking to it, which could make them very dangerous. So it's like, if those teams are pretty good, then we're probably pretty good. But, yeah, it's a relief after feeling like the sky was falling. But yeah, again, I guess reminder to not overreact too much in April.
What?
How many games are we into the season? Can we can't even look at the table, can we?
Can't even look at the table yet. No, we're not allowed.
Yeah.
I think we're still.
What is this podcast for if not to overreact?
Right.
I'm just saying.
Yes,
would it be interesting if we didn't overreact?
Listen,
not.
I've swung very far in both directions before, so I get it. I think I'm feeling much better, because I think especially early on, I was questioning where people were on the field. It just seemed like things weren't clicking. And I think the introduction of Sample into the midfield with Griffin, I think keeping Mertz up higher, I think having an established backline. I really like what I'm seeing out of Biasi playing in the backline. It feels like it's coming together, which is good. So now let's just see how far we can ride this thing. Eli, you alluded to the next game we have here is Miami. So the Hounds start a bit of a homestand. We're back at Highmark again this weekend, 7 p.m. Miami comes to town. A couple of things happening. First of all, it's mascot mania. So for those of you who want to interact with a whole bunch of mascots, there's going to be a whole bunch of mascots there. And it's also Squish Ammo Plushies night. So the first 750 people through the gate get a Squish Ammo plushie. So for those of you who started collecting all of the giveaways at the gate, here is your chance to pick up another one. But in terms of Miami, they're 2-5-1 on the season, so they've only won 2 games. They, in their last 5, they won their most recent game, but they lost the 4 before that. So they're sitting beneath us in the table. Alan Gavinales is their leading goal scorer. He has 4 goals in 8 games, so he's basically scoring every other game. And he didn't score in their most recent one against San Antonio, so he might be due for one in this one. But they did get a 2-1 win over San Antonio in Miami. Part of me feels for Miami just a little bit, because watching back the highlights from that game, I think they had 1,000 people there. I think with, MLS Miami in town, just all of the eyes are off of this team. And so it does make me feel bad, that constant battle. We'll talk about the whole MLS USL thing some other time. But, there was headlines this week of Indy had announced they're building this new complex, and there's going to be, this massive stadium. And now you have Indy's mayor saying, I'm bringing an MLS team here. And it's like, what are you doing, dude? So I get it. So part of me does feel bad, but this is a very winnable game. So, Laura Ellen, what are you hoping to see out of this one? Either, win, loss, draw, score prediction. Is there something in particular you're hoping to see on the field? Just where do you stand on this?
Yeah, I think I will answer your question. I feel like I'm pulling a Kevin. Yes. I will answer your question after I answer my own question, which is to say, I think there is a way to beat Miami soundly and, kind of like show them Fort Highmark, while also continuing to support soccer and, for right now, second division soccer in the US. And so I think, and I don't know exactly what that looks like when it's Miami coming to Pittsburgh, but, if it's something that, we can't fill up their stadium for them, but, I think showing signs of support and solidarity for cities like Miami who have this USL team, to what you mentioned earlier, Mike, places like Indy, where Indy 11's been around for a long time and there's a culture around them. And it is just like such a shame to see, David Beckham bringing in, Barcelona from 2010, 9, to Miami. Cool beans. Anyway, so all that to say, I think there's a way yes, I appreciate the blue shade comment. We can fill our stadium for them. I think that's a great sign of solidarity. So what I would like to see this weekend, I would like to see the same level of energy coming through the television as I did this past weekend. Hopefully the weather is going to be good. I haven't looked to see what the weather will be like in Western PA this weekend. And I would like to see us win. I would like to see a continued progression of, hey, Bob has had his 5 games of tinkering. We're done with that now, right? Like now it's time that we need to get our points. We need to show that we are we are a team to be reckoned with, and clubs can't come to Highmark and just assume that they're going to do well. Clubs can't play us and just assume that they're going to do well. So I'd really like to see the players progressing. I want to see them working with each other and figuring out what that looks like and continuing to build off of the momentum that we've had in the past couple games. And I wanted to mention for the Detroit game, Blackstock at the end of the game had this like shot that I was like, ooh,
Dude's got a foot.
Ooh, I want to. I was like, I want to see more of that. Like that's what I want to see. So maybe that's what I want for Miami. I want Blackstock to get me a goal, and that will make me very happy. So yeah, I think that's what I'm hoping to see.
Eli, how about you? What are you hoping to see in this one?
Hoping to see a comfortable win, just given how Miami has been. Although, again, I don't want to completely underrate them, disregard them, but you always remember the games that the Hounds kind of let teams hang in there and either just narrowly pull out a win or mess around too long and give up a late goal and have a frustrating draw. I think I forget if that's the way the game went against Miami at home last year, but there's a fear of that, I guess. So if we could get 2 more first half goals, that would be awesome. However we get them, just kind of, just love to see a continuation of that energy and that cohesiveness that we've seen, at least, last week, certainly the week before kind of started to build something. So yeah, I think I'm on, feels like the Hounds are on top of the world, but we have the remainder of a season to play, and guess we'll see. I feel like they should win, 5-0, but more realistically, more realistically, probably 1-0. And I like
the 5-0 shout. Yeah, for sure. I was looking through. We have like a bunch of clips that we can play like during the show, and we don't really use it that often. But for a while, I had the clip from 2 seasons ago, the Miami corner kick, where their player kicked it back to the keeper and it went into the goal, and the ref gave them a phantom corner kick, and then we had to replay the game. So that's like my lasting thought of Miami in Miami was just like, yeah, I'm with both of you. I'm just hoping for continued progression. Like I think that the way that we played against Detroit was fantastic. It'll be interesting to see if we have another level. Like, can we take it up yet another level against a team that, in theory isn't as good as Detroit? I think 5-0, as great as it would be, it might be a lot for Miami to swallow. So like, I'm fine with a comfortable 2-0, 3-0 win, shut it down, Fort Highmark, keep the shutout going. Great shutout streak going. So regardless, it sounds like it's set to be another really great night, a really fun night. Anytime there's stuff at the gate, people show up in droves, and mascot night, you're going to have a lot of families there. So I'm really happy. Like I said, I was worried early on that maybe the only reason that people were showing up was because of success on the field. And, that still might be the case. We might see the attendance wane here and there, but man, packed Highmark is so much fun. So just more of that, please. And let's see how far it can take us. Guys, any sort of final thoughts on this one before we wrap the show up?
It's making me really, I guess the other thing that I would like to see is just to concede that continued progress on the field so that when we come out in mid-May, we are continuing that trajectory. Yeah, and just, seeing people show up, because I want to come to a full, right? I want to show up and I want it to be a sold out crowd, and I want it to be chaos while also keeping my smaller family members safe, but controlled chaos in a productive kind of way. So yeah, I'm excited, and the sun is shining more. It's getting a little, it's feeling warmer. It's not so cold. Everything is green. It's like starting to get green, and so these are the times that I just get so excited to go to Highmark, to tailgate, to hang out, and to just support local soccer. And I don't know. That's to me, that's what spring and summer are all about.
Agreed. Can't wait. Well, that is what we think. Obviously, let us know what you think. Thank you to everybody who has been watching live and adding comments. You can go subscribe to us on YouTube, and you'll get notified as soon as we go live. You can jump into the chat. Lots of chat conversations that was happening that didn't even make it into the show. So a lot of fun happening there. We really appreciate it. Otherwise, try to get down to Highmark this weekend, 7 p.m. against Miami on Saturday. Get yourself a squishy ammo. And yeah, thanks again.
Or is it Squishamo? Is that what it is? Squishamo?
Squish ammo. But like, if you squish that together, Squishamo. Yeah, I don't know, whatever. Regardless.
Wait, so Mike, how many subscribers do we need? And then you're gonna sing the national anthem or do cartwheels, or
I'd love to see us get to 500 subscribers on YouTube, but we'll see. That's a lot. I know a lot. And
then Mike will sing the national anthem.
I never agreed to that, but I'm sure that we could probably make that happen.
I feel like that's exactly what I've heard is going to happen.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. Huge thanks to Jeff Gardner for dropping by.
Otherwise, never come back.
He's never coming back. No. He wants to come back, so we'll have him back for sure. Thank you, Eli, Laura, Ellen, for joining me. As always, I appreciate it. And thank you, everybody. We will talk to you very, very soon.